Today, we will discuss topics such as the Antardasha, inauspicious results of Jupiter in the Mahadasha of Jupiter, verse 2 of chapter 56 of Parashara Horashastra.
All right, so here's our agenda for today. We're going to look at the verse analysis for the Jupiter Antardasha, dig into the inauspicious results and their meanings, and then explore the astigant and curvature theories. After that, we'll cover planetary dignity and Shadabala, look at the practical significance and mitigation measures, and finally, wrap it all up with a summary of the chapter's results. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Jupiter Antardasha Verse Analysis. Let's look at the foundational verses.
Okay, so we're starting our textual autopsy right here with the primary source text. This specifically details the conditions under which Jupiter, usually our great benefic, right, actually produces some pretty severe distress. You know, the original Sanskrit script doesn't just casually say Jupiter becomes bad. No, it provides a really rigorous mathematical framework for exactly when this planet fails to protect the native, listing out specific placements across both the birth and divisional charts.
Let's actually parse this core verse together. The text uses some very precise terminology here. First, we have Nichamshe, which refers to a debilitated Navamsha. So we're talking about weakness at a microscopic structural level. Then there's Nitrasishte, meaning a debilitated sign in the main natal chart. And finally, Shastashtavyayar Ashigi, which explicitly points to placements in the 6th, 8th, or 12th houses. Basically, if any of these states are triggered, the adverse effects we're about to discuss start rolling in.
Section 2. Inauspicious Results and Meanings. Let's look at the practical outcomes.
So what actually happens when the planet of wisdom gets mathematically compromised like this? Well, the literal English translation of the verse paints a pretty stark picture. It reads, association with the menials, great distress, slander by co-parceners, wrath of the employer, danger of premature death, separation from wife and children, and loss of wealth and grains. I mean, wow, right? That is a total systemic shock to a person's material and social standing.
The really crucial point to grasp here is how these specific placements dictate the exact flavor of the distress. Astrologically speaking, being placed in those Dastana houses, the 6th, 8th, or 12th, or being in a state of debilitation completely flips Jupiter's natural indications of expansion and wisdom. Instead of growth, you see sudden loss of grains, which in modern terms is basically a loss of your basic wealth and sustenance. And it gets heavier. If Jupiter happens to rule the 2nd or 7th house, the text warns us that the danger shifts away from just financial ruin to acute physical distress and premature danger.
Section 3. Astringent and curvature theories. Let's explore the astronomical mechanics.
To understand exactly why these results occur, we have to look at the underlying astronomical mechanics. First up is the Astangata theory, which you probably know as combustion. This happens when a planet gets just too close to the sun. Under this condition, a combust Jupiter absolutely loses its vital power to protect the native. Its rays are literally burned up by the sun's glare, stripping away all its defensive capabilities, and allowing those inauspicious results we talked about to manifest incredibly rapidly.
Furthermore, we've got to factor in the curvature theory, which in Sanskrit is known as vakri, or retrogression. Now, this is an apparent backward motion when viewed from Earth, and it brilliantly illustrates a key concept. Retrogression actually intensifies a planet's internal energy. Think about it. If Jupiter is retrograde while it's already sitting in these malefic, debilitated positions, that internal distress, the psychological turmoil, the sudden changes in fortune, they are heavily amplified. The energy turns completely inward and becomes highly erratic.
Moving right along to Section 4, Planetary Dignity and Shadbala. Let's measure that strength.
Ultimately, the final determination of these results depends entirely on actually measuring the planetary strength. The text draws this really sharp contrast between high and low positions. A high position, like exaltation, elevates the soul, right? It brings sovereignty and riches. But a low position, or debilitation, acts as a cosmic test of character through material deprivation. It essentially binds the native to worldly suffering and material loss.
So, to mathematically prove this low position, practitioners rely heavily on the 6 pillars of Shadbala calculation. We're looking at positional, directional, temporal, motional, natural, and aspectual strength. By calculating this Shadbala, an astrologer can determine if Jupiter really possesses the absolute numerical weakness required to trigger all this. If the Shadbala score is critically low, well, those harsh translations we read earlier are virtually guaranteed.
Section 5. Practical Significance and Mitigation. Let's get into the scriptural remedies.
Now, the beautiful thing is that the text does not leave the native without a shield. If you look at verses 6 and 7 of the original manuscript, it specifies that if Jupiter is the lord of the 2nd or 7th house, the danger shifts strictly toward physical affliction. And because these are known as maraka, or death-inflicting houses, the text prescribes some immediate, highly specific remedial measures to counteract this really intense dasha fruit.
This actually builds a very practical 4-step workflow for the astrologer. First, you map Jupiter's dignity across both the Arazi and Navamsa charts. Step 2, you confirm if it sits in the 6th, 8th, or 12th house. Step 3, you check for that critical 2nd or 7th house lordship. It's really only after following this exact logical sequence that you go ahead and apply the specified scriptural remedies. It's a very systematic approach.
So, what are these remedies exactly? Well, to ward off these specific evils, alleviate the bodily pain, and actually obtain some relief, the text prescribes the rigorous recitation of Rudra Japa and the Shiva Sahasranam. It's extremely clear here that a dedicated, intense spiritual focus upon Lord Shiva is the exact energetic antidote required to survive and eventually thrive when Jupiter's natural protective grace has been mathematically suspended.
Section 6. Summary of chapter results. Let's quickly recap the events and remedies.
All right, to summarize the precise sequence of events we've unpacked today, an ill-dignified Jupiter, during its own Mahadasha, basically serves as a profound spiritual test. It's triggered by debilitation or placement in Dastana houses, and it gets exponentially worse with combustion or low Shat Bala. It completely strips away material comforts to force inward reflection. But, as we've seen, this intricate mathematical system of cause and effect can absolutely be managed through immediate Shiva-focused remedies.
Ultimately, this chapter leaves us with a pretty profound question. If the stars can mathematically guarantee our lowest moments, doesn't the existence of these exact remedies prove we always hold the power to change our fate? It's something to think about. On behalf of the Vedmata AI family, if you found our presentation informative, please share our video as widely as possible so that the authentic knowledge of Indian Vedic texts can reach the masses. Let us all participate in this yagya of knowledge. Har Har Mahadev.